So, Ava, Neon Genesis Evangelion, the anime review. Yeah, good luck me. Now, for the longest time, I've been really surprised at the massive reaction spectrum of people who have watched this show. On one hand, some will mark it as being poorly written, illogical, and aggravating, while at the same time, other people declare it as being one of the best, if not the best anime ever made, with some of the most realistic and intelligent storytelling ever written. Even to the point where there's some anime reviewers who'll just make video after video about the high quality of Eva. So as you can imagine, I was definitely curious and had no idea about what to expect going into this. Which leads up to the question of did I like it? No, it was awful. Nah, I'm just kidding, you crazy beaver, I absolutely loved it. The anime has very realistic, complex, and interesting characters, a world and a story that keeps the viewer in suspense, and lastly all with an effectively abstract presentation. The story in a nutshell takes place in the far-off year of 2015, where a boy named Shinji Ikari is called by his father, who abandoned him when he was young, to have Shinji pilot a giant robot for an agency called Nerve, which has the goal of fighting against beings called angels who seem to begin appearing after a massive worldwide catastrophe called the Second Impact, with the angels being seamlessly bent on attacking Nerve and stopping humanity. This eventually leads to Shinji meeting other Eva pilots and Nerve members who all end up working together to fight the angels whenever they may appear. Let's start things off with the main character Shinji, who's probably one of the most realistic and sympathetic characters out there. The one aspect that I am so incredibly thankful for is that this is the first time in an anime I've actually seen a well-written version of the quote-unquote normal guy before. Several times, anime have tried to create an average Joe character, but completely failed to create any interest in said character, resulting in the generic protagonist trope, which I really hate. A lot. But as in this anime's case, Shinji gets definability by his ever-changing mindset, his struggles, and his strong emotions. When we first see him, he's relatively normal, he's happy, upbeat, fairly optimistic, and even pokes fun at the immature tendencies of another character, Misato, which later leads to him getting extremely terrified and fearful about fighting these creatures that are destroying humanity like you'd expect any normal kid to. In addition, some of the smaller things like him struggling to learn how to pilot the Eva and having this weigh on him mentally portrays a very realistic and believable side to his character. And because he never feels fictionalized, he becomes a lot more realistic and sympathetic to the viewer. This eventually transitions to it affecting his psyche into a very strong depression, until the anime decides to develop him some more. He's not just stuck on one single personality, but has multiple emotions and stages of development, making him a very complex character. Playing off of this, a major part of the effectiveness of his personality is that throughout the whole anime, his mindset is always shown to the viewer and is justified. The show takes time to present to us his inner thoughts, how he questions his motivation for piloting the Eva, and why people or events that happen to him have an impact on him as a person, with a clear example being the effects of the death of his mother and how his father pretty much abandoned him. On the other side of the spectrum, the main complaint against Shinji that I keep hearing is that he runs away too much and is simply unlikable. Now, I don't intend to sound like Captain of the SS pretentious, but it seems to me that people just personally don't like the concept of his character and would prefer a more common action-type hero. Now don't get me wrong, I love characters like Lelouch from Code Geass that can show an intense level of intelligence and passion for their cause, but that doesn't mean that you're not allowed to have a character who can show struggles and still be very enjoyable to see. As another key point to his character is that throughout the whole anime, he never stops being likable and relatable. Even the first time Shinji pilots the Eva, the main reason he actually does it is because if he didn't, Nerve would cram a girl into the robot who looks like she came straight from the hospital. Or how even though he does run away, he still ultimately comes back and fights because his conscience tells him that this is the right thing to do and the people he cares about will die without him. He's even mature enough to flat out admit his problems to other people and that he needs to change them. And with all of this in mind, it makes him feel so much more honorable to the viewer that even though he is just a kid, and even though he is very understandably scared, that doesn't stop him from ultimately piloting the Eva and in the end saving lives. And what does he get for saving people? He later gets beat up for indirectly sending a kid's sister to the hospital, even though his actions most likely saved everyone in the city, which only results in adding more sympathy for him. His likability goes far beyond just feeling sorry for the average Joe getting crammed into a robot, but is also helped by his actions in spite of his fear and how horribly he can be treated by other people. In addition, Shinji's father, commonly referred to as Ikari, is also a great character. The way the anime selectively presents his personality and goals does an excellent job at creating mystery and interest. For instance, most of the time the anime presents him as being a very level-headed and calm leader, even to the point where he can literally stand right in front of an angel that can easily kill him and he acts completely unfazed. Therefore, it makes the viewer question why he'd become extremely emotional and obsessive about protecting another one of the Eva pilots named Rei, as he's willing to even physically harm himself to keep her safe. Adding on to his sense of mystery, the anime raises questions about what is the final goal he's trying to accomplish by giving out information that he's gathering objects related to the angels for yet to be told reasons. He also slowly becomes less and less present at NERV, hinting that he's working on something else, and lastly, keeping secrets from not just most of his crew, but also the higher-ups in NERV. For most of the anime, they never directly say what he's doing, but just give out little hints and pieces, which the show cleverly plays on to improve his character by giving out foreshadowing to help build up to when the anime presents the concept as a whole. All of this mystery with his character also overlaps with his relationship with Shinji. On one hand, a lot of time is given showing Shinji's feelings about his father leaving him, its effects on him, and how he wants to get to know him better and have his approval. With this, yet again, adding on another element of complexity, sympathy, and drama to Shinji's character, as he tries to go through his father's crazy Eva piloting ideas just to make him happy and proud of him, with the anime exploring this aspect of Shinji psychologically as well. And once again, they keep it unclear about whether his father likes him but is kind of tough, or he doesn't care about Shinji in the slightest. While there are moments that hint that he does care, like preparing the Eva for Shinji himself or telling Shinji that he's proud of him. However, there's also a lot of scenes that express his disinterest and frustration of Shinji from simply some mean-spirited remarks to his absence of being Shinji's father. And lastly, some of the things he does to Shinji both physically and mentally are pretty abusive and scarring, which leads to some very strong emotional moments with well-done justification beforehand that make up some of the most resonating episodes in the series. Last of all, the icing on the cake of the uncertainty of his character that really helps tie all this together is his questionable morality, with the really smart thing being that there isn't a clear-cut answer to whether he's quote-unquote good or evil. You could argue that he's doing some morally questionable things for the greater good, whether that's withholding information from his crew or borderline taking advantage of Shinji. You could say that he's trying to not let ethics or other people's thoughts possibly play a role in hindering his efforts to stop the angels and save humanity. However, on the other hand, you could argue that he only cares about his own goals more than anything else. In one episode, he states that the angel impact was a good thing because of the advances of technology, or how he takes advantage of several situations when he's first introduced to Shinji's mother that could easily resemble a sociopath. Overall, the build-up of Hikari's character and mystery keeps the viewer guessing and makes him one of the most complex and interesting characters I've seen in a while. Moving on, Rei is another interesting character who, yet again, relies a lot on mystery and build-up. I also hope you like the word mystery, by the way, because it's not going away. Anyway, her personality is presented as being extremely quiet and emotionless to the world around her. While this type of personality is definitely not out of the ordinary for anime, the show builds on it and makes use of it throughout the story to give it much more complexity than the average anime quiet type girl of whatever. And in all fairness, back when the anime was first made, this type of character was way less common than it is today. However, even compared to the level of mellowness of other similar characters, Rei sticks out by just how extreme she is. While I usually hate this trope in other anime as it doesn't normally serve a purpose, when Shinji accidentally knocks Rei over after a shower, she has absolutely no emotional reaction. Like this is nothing out of the ordinary as she quietly asks Shinji to get off of her. Therefore, when the anime gives out little hints of her giving out genuine emotions, it makes those emotions so much more meaningful than if any other character had shown them because they contrast so well with the rest of her personality. In addition, throughout the anime, her mindset is presented in a very interesting way that makes you want to know more about her, such as how she questions things in a very abstract way, like why is there one Earth, one sun, how she hates the color of the sun, and so on. With the end goal successfully presenting that she's much more out of touch with reality and being normal than just being the quote-unquote quiet girl. Making this even more clear, she says things like she will die if she's ordered to, or some of the messed up actions that she does as a child that easily create interest in her unusual psyche. Going even further, how she lives in a horribly run-down apartment despite being a key member of NERV, and how she seems to be the only person who gets along nicely with Hikari, showing that she has some respect and trust for him adds even more complexity to Rei's element of mystery. With all of these aspects eventually helping to justify later drama and create impactful moments because we've already been given investment in the character beforehand. On the surface, Rei might seem like just another anime archetype, however her character is expanded upon to make her far more well thought out than just any archetype. Next, I want to talk about Asuka, who is very similar to Rei in the sense that she is reminiscent of a commonly used anime archetype, in this case the tsundere. I would even be willing to bet that Asuka played a major role in creating the frequency of this archetype, and most importantly, is much better than any stereotypical archetype, with a lot of her strength coming from her understandable motivation and a well-written personality. She is first presented as being a very proud and snobby character, but thankfully the show expands on the sympathetic events that caused her to act like this so you can understand and still feel sorry for her. But it's not like that's all to her. She is still shown to be thankful every now and then and does have some very bipolar interactions with Shinji. Sometimes they get along well enough, they can help each other out, bicker, and do other things preteens their age might do. She also still has some great lines that make her feel unique. For example, she gives Rei the nickname Wonder Girl, or how she leaves a voice message to a guy she likes in a childish way that only contains her screaming and saying please help me just to get attention. It's really nice to see all these small little things that are able to build on her personality that keep her feeling like a person and not just a character in a story. However, the best part about her is how the anime dives into her psychological mindset of wanting to be the best and not relying on others. As the show breaks down her character and her feelings of worthlessness and depression mixed with strong drama and flashbacks to bring justification as to why this strongly affects her. Asuka's character takes a somewhat basic concept and provides all the right cause and effect mixed with sympathy and emotions for another great addition to the show. Adding on to the anime's list of well-written characters is Misato, who effectively follows the anime's approach to creating strong characters. Her personality is spastic, sometimes hot-headed, while still being able to be serious and focused when the situation demands it, with this being given some more complexity by adding her lack of house cleaning, love of alcohol, cheap food, and even questionably keeping a penguin as a pet. They don't just rely on one or two personality traits, but give her several different ones with their own unique features to make a much more interesting and realistic character. In addition, the anime, just as expected, does a great job of focusing on her mindset. For example, the anime intertwines how her relationship with her father subconsciously overlapped her anger against the angels and even how this affected her past dating relationship. Throughout the whole process, showing her own self-anger and what she is thinking while also giving her development and exploration. Now at this point, you might not find it a stretch to say that I liked Ava's characters. Quite a bit. Actually, there wasn't a single character that I disliked, and while I don't want to talk about any more of them directly since, let's be honest, if any of you saw a 2-hour Evangelion review, you might come to think that I have a problem, which I want to remind you that I don't. Anyway, another thing I want to praise Ava for, in addition to having a great main cast, is also having a great supporting cast as well. Despite a lot of them not having much screen time, the anime still gives some of them drama or exploration. From Dr. Akagi's relationship with her mother and how she feels about her as a mom versus her scientific work, to how a school bully has his own development around caring for his sister and his thoughts towards Shinji, which eventually includes the angels themselves and even some other smaller things as well. Ironically, the side characters have some more complexity than main characters in other anime. In addition, a lot of them have a few memorable lines and some good interactions. For example, Dr. Akagi's and Misato's friendship feels very genuine and enjoyable, in part thanks to their bickering with each other about various topics. Now, in all fairness, these aren't the greatest development or backstories, interactions, and personalities that I've ever seen, and to be honest, if they were the main emotional connection to a show, I would be pretty lukewarm about them. But the characters all contain good elements, and for side characters they're great because they help the cast overall feel like it contains real people with real struggles and or real personalities, no matter how small. And in a nutshell, that's what I really loved about this anime's cast. As a whole, they all had something good, great, or exceptionally well done with them. However, the anime's strong points don't just rest on the characters, since the story makes good use of them. Whenever the anime presents any type of climax, it always has enough tension to the plot to be unpredictable and great interest. Repeatedly throughout the whole anime, the story introduces elements that make it seem more likely that the angels will win. Whether that's outsmarting Nerve's attempts to stop them one after another, the angels introducing their own secret weapon or tactic, or lastly the plot point of the angels being able to seamlessly come out of nowhere with multiple different forms and powers perfectly creates unpredictability. Adding on to this, the characters take these events very seriously with a lot of strong emotions, which in turn conveys importance and danger to the viewer. The anime never stops making it clear that multiple times the main characters and Nerve, if not the city or even the world, have repeatedly come close to being annihilated. And since all of them are good characters, it makes the enemy obsessively threatening to kill them off a huge benefit to the viewer's investment of the story. In addition, the action is used to explore the mindset of several different characters psychologically, help fuel their development, and make the characters show legitimate and strong emotions. The next part of the story that was unique and interesting is how the anime presents the mindset of the characters through abstract imagery and symbolism, which, to be honest, is one of the reasons I don't think the show was liked by some people. However, if I was given the choice between a character blabbering on and on about themselves for 7 minutes, or having the character ask themselves questions and having conversations with a psychological representation of themselves or other people with great imagery that subtly ties the topic together, yeah, is this even a contest anymore? While both of these things, in theory, are the same thing, the second one is much better because the presentation makes the mind wonder about this abstract world that represents the character's psyche, connect the dots themselves, and in the end have a much stronger effect on the viewer. If you're going to have a character feel unwanted, alone, or any other emotion, it is very smart to use imagery that gives that feeling to the viewer, or in other words, anime is a visual and audible medium and should make use of show don't tell. Which can be anything from Asuka as a child running through doors representing what she sees as entering into a new life, or literally creating a parallel world in Shinji's mind to represent his desire to escape reality. They go further than just telling, or even beyond only having the character relive moments of a character's past, for instead a very creative way to represent the character's thoughts, mindsets, and backstories. Even if you want to make the argument that not everything has some type of symbolic meaning, the imagery is still very interesting and enjoyable to watch by its sheer nature of it being otherworldly and playing into the curiosity of the unknown. And while I'm on the topic, I guess I might tackle the elephant in the room being the ending, not the movie at the end of Evangelion, which, believe me, is getting its own video. I know there's a lot of disapproval for the ending as it's usually cited for being really out there, which surprise, surprise, I actually agree with, but that's part of the reason I loved it. Now I have a feeling that some people might see the end as a result of the writers being drunk at a bar and forgetting that they needed to finish that anime script for tomorrow. But the key difference between pretentious and well thought out is that there's a reason behind the ideas presented. First of all, as many people know, the creators started to run out of money at the end, which is why the animation is drastically cut down. Some of the scenes use simplified characters or other simplified imagery. However, what keeps this from coming off as a problem is that it fits very well with the abstract tone that the anime likes to use. They still follow the same principles that I talked about before, being how creative and eye-catching they are, especially with how well they contrast to the rest of the anime's art style. In addition, they were also able to effectively present elements of the character's thoughts in the same great not-in-your-face way that I talked about before, which results in bringing together and finalizes the character's mindsets and emotions, which have been getting development throughout the anime, along with tying them together with concepts such as how our own perspective reflects how we respond to the world around us, with also backing this claim up with how different people can see different situations as positive or negative. Or how we create our own identity by comparing ourselves to others, backing this idea up with how at different points throughout the story, Shinji, Asuka, and Misato judge themselves and hence alter their identity by comparing each other to other people's skills or personalities. I know the very abstract imagery and how indirect it is a major problem for some, but that doesn't mean there's not logic and meaning mixed into it. Okay, enough gushing over Eva. Is there anything that I could actually say is somewhat of a problem? To be honest, there was one way the anime handled the presentation that I wasn't really all that fond of, being that there's multiple times where the anime will just hold on a still frame for way too long, which results in several scenes getting a bit distracting to the story and sometimes a little bit uncomfortable. Now, this isn't something that is that much of a problem at all, since it only happens a couple times. However, it did come up near the end for some important scenes, so I guess it's worth a note. Like anything, there's a point where going too far weakens the effectiveness of any type of storytelling device. Now, I will give them credit for trying to create some very strong atmosphere, but while people may be in a state of shock for a moment, for about a minute is pretty unnatural, not to mention it hurts the pacing of the show with a sudden halt and freeze. Adding on to this, they use this element several times, which makes it feel repetitive. However, once again, before any of you go nuts, this is a really small nitpick and doesn't overshadow the story and the characters. Also, maybe if you push me, some of the episodes between Shinji's first arc at the beginning and about the last third aren't as strong as the rest of the show, with some of the action and drama not being as intense on the characters or not as much focus on their mindsets as the rest of Eva, but I honestly wouldn't even call that a problem. The episodes still have sympathetic characters, good action, mystery/foreshadowing the plans of Nerve, and most importantly, set up the foundations for the moments when the anime really shines. Honestly, if the worst thing I have to say about an anime is a few animation drops and some episodes that didn't completely envelop me as much as the others, that's pretty good. So in the end, yeah, I really liked Eva. The show's world is interesting and mysterious, always having some element to keep you wondering throughout the anime. Drama and character development are fundamental aspects of the story, mixed together with some of the best abstract imagery that I've seen in a while, which thankfully links back to the story and the mindsets of the characters. With lastly and most importantly, a complex, sympathetic, interesting, and realistic character cast. Maybe if you're someone who isn't a fan of heavily character-focused anime with large psychological elements, this may not be for you, but for everyone else. While I can't make you watch anything against your will, well, legally, so I've been told, Eva is definitely something you owe yourself to watch, and I'll easily stand by that the anime deserves its status as an anime classic and a must-watch for any anime fan. If you're watching this, let me be the first to tell you, or listening, whatever, congratulations! You sat through it all, I assume, and haven't died. Isn't that great? So hey, yeah, I'm gonna try to make those videos some more again. Maybe I'll be smart and not make super duper insanely long ones that have like 5 hours of raw recording. Or you know, I could just do the normal stuff and not get sick and stuck with traveling and get distracted sometimes. But hey, you're not here to listen to my psychotic ramblings. How about some delightful anime videos? Really, they are, trust me. So delightful, in fact. What was the last 2 I made? I'm not looking them up right now. Hey, would you like the K-Project anime review? You can watch that, or the Seraph of the End, Vampire Reign. That's great too, you can do that. Look at all these wonderful options, and I'll even throw in my review of... Hold on, I'm out of breath. Okay, I'm good now, and I'll even throw in my review of the end of Evangelion whenever I get it done. Then you can click on it, but in the meantime, you just have to look at the little box in the corner and feel sad. Sorry. But hey, I would feel sympathy towards you if I didn't have to do a massive amount of editing that might kill me. But hey, I probably will survive it. Give me the benefit of the doubt.